clubber,
I think I deserve a little
Ronald
bit
Johnson.
more than that
Give it
now.
up.
I think we have a couple seconds left. So. Couple seconds. I talked to you guys about this last meeting actually, but it was inadvertently left off the agenda.
Oh, the table. Yeah,
Oh,
perfect. Thank you.
yeah, good.
So here you guys go.
Hey.
Hey, good morning. How are you guys doing?
Doing good, and you?
Good.
Good.
Really well. That's above average. Oh, we are 6 o'clock. It's 6 o'clock according to the clock on the wall, so let me call this meeting of Planning and Zoning Commission for July to order. You have all received in advance the agenda, so if you will so be inclined, I'd be glad to entertain adopting the agenda for tonight.
Chairman, I'm sorry. This item actually is not on the agenda.
Right.
It was inverted. So
Right.
yeah. Okay.
Right.
Just remind me. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody,
I move we approve and adopt the agenda as presented with the addition of the zoning districts, table 4.4 residential lot standards that Mr. Johnson had just handed out.
Second the motion.
She seconds.
all in favor?
Uh,
Okay, the agenda is adopted. All right, and you received a copy of the minutes from our June meeting. Any changes or corrections noted? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from last meeting.
I move that we approve the minutes from the last meeting as submitted.
Second the motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. We approve the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to abstain. I wasn't here.
That's what I was not here.
Okay, 3-0. Thank you, gentlemen. We're glad you're back. We missed you at the last meeting. We did have a quorum, so.
Glad to be back.
All right, that brings us up to new business, so turn it over to Ron.
All right. Our first item tonight is an ordinance change to section 9.01 that the department would like to submit. This is the only change here that we're looking to make is a change in materials that are required or allowed as a part of residential developments. So this is your standard single-family R1, R2 zone properties. We're looking to remove vinyl siding as an allowable material for homes. We wouldn't allow for vinyl on any percentage of a house with this type of change that we're looking to do. What we found, and when the ordinance was initially put together in 2020, Chris and I had a lot of conversations about the vinyl siding. I was very much, at the time, very much against using vinyl siding of any gauge or of any, I guess, quality, if you will. We were trying to strike a balance. We actually heard from the Vinyl Institute in Washington, D.C. that somehow knew that we were going to be changing our ordinance. And they reached out to us and talked about the positives of vinyl siding and what that can do. As we know, the economy is, I think, even if, I know I asked in our department, but if I asked Tracy and Adam now if vinyl versus a wood siding is about the same cost, I'm sure they would probably say yes. It's pretty comparable in price today. So as we know, vinyl was a material that was created to try to reduce costs on homes, and that dates back to the 50s or before. And I think we're just in different times now. I think that the product probably it's not really holding up. We see it in the wild all the time, as I call it, in the wild. But we see it all the time, and it doesn't really hold up. They need power washing constantly, and it's becoming more of a maintenance issue. So we're trying to remove that as a permitted type of material.
Now, we're going to strike this from here on. Have we had any construction in the recent past that did include vinyl?
We had a few houses in Charleston Place that were constructed that had vinyl, but that's a community that already had vinyl siding. It was a mix of vinyl and hardy plank. So, but as far as any of the developments that have been approved since this new zoning ordinance come into effect, not a single one wants to do vinyl. I believe we may have had one that submitted plans with vinyl on it, and then they came back and clarified and said, "Oh no, we're not going to do vinyl." So,
Okay. Well, good.
zero interest.
Shoot, we've got vinyl in Mirror Lake, John, but that is not an argument for allowing more to be used. So, and I've had some experience, with vinyl siding, and I'm just telling you, it's wood you have to paint and keep it up, but looks better for the life of the house than vinyl ever will.
Any other comments on the vinyl aspect? I have a question, Ron, on this same section, number 8, the roof. What is a 12-12? That sounds like a wall.
It's 12. One.
I know, that's why I say it sounds like not a roof, but a,
Oh, yeah, it's just kind of steep. It's, the run to the rise, or the rise to the run is 1 to 1.
no, I know that. Why I say it sounds like not a roof, but a wall.
Oh,
Not
yeah.
quite, not unless you're a mountain goat,
Yeah, no.
It feels like you're standing on a wall in one of those two.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but let me say this, the rain does not stand on it.
Gets to moving.
That is
Sure.
true. Very true.
Any other questions for Ron?
You know, I've got some reservations on this. You know, I agree with the lower end siding and some of the earlier materials. But I mean, the vinyl industry is constantly improving itself. And yes, there is I would call it an entry level siding. And there's also some luxury siding that is thicker, that has different designs on it, and it has insulation sometimes built into it. And it's a more durable product. So, you know, is there just no room? Help me out with some more of the negatives. I mean, I have all brick home, but I've lived in siding, and in my construction career, I did a lot of replacement. Sometimes siding was the best option, depending on what, the
I lived
circumstance
in a
was.
siding house, it was a nightmare. You got 2 different runs of siding, it faded at different stains. Ended up literally having to sue the siding company because they finally admitted that they sold siding to me for one part of my side of my house off of one run and another siding off another run. And after about 1.5 years, 2 years, it didn't take long to figure out that once the builder's warranty ran out, it didn't take long to figure out they faded at different rates. It cracked easily. You throw a rock from weed eating.
Yeah, lawnmowers, I see that.
It ended up being about $25,000 ordeal a lot of time. And if had I not been a lawyer, I probably wouldn't have been able to do what I did to get it done. For me, the siding home, it won't happen again. I will never buy another one with vinyl.
I'd like to address just a little bit, being in the construction industry my whole life, but one of the setbacks in vinyl also, when you get into high density homes that we're doing, so when you have sunlight hitting directly onto a window, it will actually reflect and melt the siding on the neighbor's house. It'll just, the heat that window produces will melt it. And one of the other negative setbacks on vinyl siding, even after 6-7 months, if a rock gets thrown through it and you go buy that same exact siding, it's not going to match the color because of the fading. And so when you have that replacement in a subdivision, you can see everywhere they've patched it. That's, to me, the real big negatives on that is that issue that you'll never, you change out some siding on a house, you can paint it and nobody will ever know it, but vinyl, you'll know it.
But we have no developers that are proposing to use vinyl,
No.
are they?
They're not, and now, like Ron said, with the cost is so comparable now, and people really, and you actually get a little extra structural strength on shear with when you use hardy plank versus vinyl. So there's a lot of upsides to using hardy plank.
Good, good.
Yeah, and, oh, by the way, ask D.R. Horton how much vinyl he's used during his life of his company.
Okay, Ron, my other question or concern would be, so anybody that's got siding already on their home, if they're gonna do a repair or anything like that, they're gonna be okay to go back with the vinyl product? What about somebody that wanted to do an addition? If they put in an application to go in there and, with you to put in, they're gonna do an addition somewhere on their house, how is that gonna be governed if this were to pass? Would they not be able to put siding on there, or are they going to be allowed to put siding on it if their house was built before a certain year that allowed the siding? I mean, where's that threshold?
Sure. So with an addition, we have, these regulations are made for new construction, but they're also made for extensive remodels also. So we have a threshold in the ordinance where all of our regulations kick in at 35% increase in square footage. So if someone was to increase their house by, let's say they want to do a 2-story addition on the back, and it's over that 35%, then they would not be able to do the siding or vinyl siding, which would obviously match their house.
If they had if their home was already siding.
But,
Yeah.
Okay.
but
Yeah.
you can get wood siding or some of the wood type sidings that are very close matches to the vinyl that's been used, and getting compatible a visual match is not a big problem.
Yeah, I think, and that's a really good, it really is a good question. But I think I have to think to myself also, how many additions have I had here in the last 3.5 years? And it's very few. I had one recently this year, but it was a brick house. But I mean, I think for like the average homeowner in town that does have a vinyl sided house, if I could see how this could be a problem for them, or it could be something that would be a concern. But I kind of do have to still rest my hat on what Tom was saying. Like it is really easy to match them up. Not all of the hardy plank are going to be what we see on the D.R. Horton products, where it's like wide and obviously it doesn't look anything like regular vinyl siding, but they do have the much more narrower kind of ones. I don't know what they're called, but they're like strips similar to vinyl. Yeah, I mean, there kind of has to be a line drawn somewhere with, versus with where the new construction versus if you're considering it just an expansion that's not really new construction. And we drew that line back in 2020 at 35% increase.
Okay, so if I had a home and I wanted to put it, and it was a vinyl sided home, or maybe I had a brick front and three sides vinyl, 'cause that's pretty frequent. And I want to do a 2-story addition on the side or the rear. I'm not going to be able to go back with the siding material if I exceed 35%. What about
Well,
if?
actually, I think it's 50%. If you read paragraph 1 of this 9.01, it says existing residential structures that expand or alter by more than 50% of the existing square footage shall also.
I'm sorry, yes,
So I
for this
think-
particular section. All the rest of the regulations kick in at 35, so,
If that's
yeah.
50%,
So, yes, thank you.
And the only other consideration that I would think would be fair in that is the age of the home. If the house was built at a time where, I mean, you're gonna force me to put wood on the back of my house, and I understand 50% is a pretty large threshold, so we're probably talking about something that you won't see very often. But what if? I mean, would you put any merit into the age of the home along with that 50% threshold that you've got, or you feel like the 50% just is the one and done answer unless somebody wants to take it to council and ask for a variance?
Ron, isn't there a discretion, ability that can be applied by, Bobby or Tom or somebody?
Unfortunately, not for this section. However, it's not too late, of course, to amend this section that we're talking about tonight. However, you guys, of course, wish to do that. We could link it to the age of the house, but I also think then that, what if we do have a house that's, say, was built in the 50s or 60s or something that has the same kind of situation, but it's not built with vinyl? What if it was a hardy plank, or it was, brick on all three sides or something like that? Then it's basically kind of allowing those homes to go with vinyl on the rears, but they may be a non-issue if we don't see it,
Well, and guys, if you got a brick house and it was built in 1947, and you're going to remodel a part of it and add on to it or something today, you're not going to match that brick. It's just, you can get some things that are close, but you're not going to get the same brick. And so I think we allow for some differences, but we do our best to try to stick to this new design criteria. And if they need a waiver or some other workaround, then let's allow them something reasonable.
Or they can do a variance, and,
Would that fall under a variance if somebody said, "Oh, I want to do this"? That could be
Yeah.
looked at as considered under a variance.
yeah, I'd rather see that than, clobber this thing up with all kinds of
Yeah.
what-ifs.
And the age of the home, going back to the 50s. I mean, I don't know what year vinyl started being produced, but I think we're predating vinyl if we go in that far. But
run in the 50s, and then vinyl probably started. You've seen a lot more aluminum in the 50s.
right, the aluminum was there
and then
first,
the vinyl came in.
Yeah.
about the 80s.
Are we
Okay,
going
any
to,
further
we're going to handle
discussion?
these one at a time?
No. No, the only change is in item 5. So
So,
I'll accept the motion to approve as adjusted by item 5.
We're gonna do A, B, C, and D, we're gonna do them all together.
okay, this is A we're voting on.
I'll make a motion to, accept position 5 on materials as presented by staff in section 901 residential design, which would, from this point forward, make the use of vinyl no longer permissible here in the city of Villa Rica. So I would move to approve the exclusion as made by staff.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion, Dave?
Well, only, I think that considering that the 50% is more than the 35%, and if someone were to come in and just want to do a sunroom on their back and they had existing vinyl, you would let them have vinyl because it's less than the 50%?
Yes.
Is that,
Yes,
am I
that's
understanding that
correct.
right? I can go along with that.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Approved. 5-0.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
we've had I'd like to recognize Councilperson,
She's back there, she's here.
who is hiding behind her computer in the back there. Thank you for joining us.
Welcome, Leslie. Good to see you. It's been a while. Okay, Ron, next item.
All right, so this is in line with the last one we just went over. This is section 9.02, and this is only for newly established PUDs, new plan unit developments that will be created. But this is also to remove vinyl siding as a permissible material.
And that's just on new PUDs.
Yeah, that's right, on all new PUDs.
I'll make a real quick motion to adopt and accept this change made by staff, suggested by staff.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous? All right. Moving quickly along, Ron, next item, item C.
All right, section 9.03 is the multifamily and single-family attached design standards. So this is for multifamily buildings, townhomes, et cetera. In this section, we're not strangers to, unfortunately. Subsection D that you see in red there, we're proposing, and we've looked at this section, it feels like a million times. But there was just truly, I guess in layman's terms, it was no way to save it at this point. We decided to strike through it and start a whole new section. But what we found was, and this section specifically deals with the distance between buildings. You remember us talking about that, and we kept kind of going back and forth between 20, 30, 40, all that stuff. We mixed in windows into the mix and all that. So what we're looking to do now is to kind of, we realized in the office that it feels like this regulation was reversed. That, like, why would you want, want the buildings to be, further apart if they're going to have common rooms or like no windows or things of that nature. So we are proposing now to do a window-to-window distance between buildings or facing exterior walls, shall not be less than 20 feet for walls without windows, and then 30 feet if it opens to a more community, like a community room or bathroom or group meeting rooms or purpose rooms, bathrooms, laundry rooms, things of that nature. And they would need to be 40 feet apart if there's windows to a bedroom or a living room or kitchen or other areas. And of course, we're keeping the last sentence there that indicates that the community development director shall have discretion to determine which offset between buildings shall apply. So we're hoping that because obviously all of our townhome developments, all of our multifamily developments would have to follow this. And some of them have kind of ran into some issues. They've applied for variances from them. We've changed the code to make it, first off, the part that's in red is a lot better than what we originally started with. But we obviously see the need to kind of switch these regulations around. It looks like they were kind of put in backwards, if you will. So we're trying to make that change tonight to try to make our ordinance make more sense.
The wording is a little confusing when you talk about window-to-window distance for walls without windows. Just wording is a little
Fair enough.
squirrely.
I'll agree to that. I will very much agree to that. I can make a quick wording change here to make it kind of read a little bit better. And this is on the spot here. Just bear with me just 1 second. Okay, how about this? A walls without windows shall maintain a distance between buildings or facing exterior walls of not less than 20 feet.
That works for me.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Title you say here, this is multifamily and. Sorry, multifamily and single-family attached design standards. So I'm assuming that means duplexes, triplexes, quads, and townhomes?
That is correct, and that's a great point. In the second line, the second green line at the very end where it says multifamily, I'd also like to make a change to add single-family attached as well, just
Okay.
to make sure it's super duper clear.
Where are you adding it?
That D,
Under
is that what
D?
you're talking about, Ron?
The green D, yes.
Yeah, okay.
The second line, the last word multifamily. I want to add single-family attached also. So that should take care of that also.
Okay.
Any other comments for Ron?
I move we accept this amendment as presented, plus with the additional changes we've discussed here.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Don't mean to throw Mike Wrench, do have one question.
Yes, sir.
Wonder if there's a wall that faces a window, but there's one.
I can't hear you, Mac, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, is this thing on? Wonder if there's a wall on one side and then there's a wall on the other side that has a window. What's the distance requirement? I don't see that written.
The most restrictive would then come into play, so they
20.
would have to, yeah, it would
Okay.
have to be either 30 or 40, depending on what that window opens up to.
Okay, so do we think we need to put that in there somewhere, sort of catch all, that if not mentioned, if not described in the, here above, it would be blank?
That's what I tried to do with subsection D,
Mm-hmm.
DD, I guess. But I could very well,
Because
You can add
I was going
something
through the
more.
scenarios of window to window, wall to wall, and then you go window to window, what's behind the windows, but what if you had a window to a wall, it's not described, I think.
okay, sure. We can add that, I guess, to, I'll do an additional subsection D, and the one that I have listed here, I'll make E. And I'll put that in there that indicates, that distance should be the most restrictive.
Okay.
Okay.
That's fine, I just crossed my mind.
Is that acceptable to the mover and the seconder?
It's gonna be a new D, and D, the current D is gonna be E. Yeah.
Mr. Flowers, you're adding that to your motion?
What?
Are you adding that to your motion?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. All right, it's been moved and seconded, and with the changes that have been noted, all in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous? Okay. Ron, number D.
All right. Our next one here, we're gonna kind of get out of the multifamily or the design guidelines section. This section that we have is section 8.20, manufactured homes. This section, I'm looking to also remove vinyl siding as an allowable exterior siding material or exterior material. And that's really the only change to this section that we're proposing at this time.
Hey, Ron, there's a, where did it go? Okay, in the first line there, in subparagraph 1, exterior siding shall consist of wood, hardboard, brick, or masonry, period.
I'll make that change. Thank you.
And when we say manufactured home, I know we think trailer, but this also, does this count tiny home? Does this count fifth wheel? Does this count RV? I mean,
It definitely not RVs.
Okay. They're
and-
mobile by nature, I guess.
Yeah, and as far as tiny houses, we don't actually allow for tiny houses,
Okay,
but we
I
do
didn't think we
allow
did.
for accessory dwelling units in people's backyards or tiny house. We have a minimum square footage in the town,
Yeah.
so yeah, we usually wouldn't have that. But this would actually apply to, the houses that kind of come in on the truck and that are like put together.
Yeah, Jim Walker
It would
type
apply to
homes.
them.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Are you talking about panelized or modular?
So that'd be modular, would
Be
it not?
modular, yeah.
No, the panelized come in on trucks too.
Yeah, they do.
Which ones do you said?
Well, what's the
Couldn't catch
difference in a
that.
panelized?
Panelized, where they put the wall panels together in a factory and send them to the site, and you assemble them and nail them together on the site.
That's like a modular, is it not? What's the?
I'm sorry,
What's the guy down Carrollton builds them? Sorry, this guy down Carrollton builds them.
and there's nothing wrong with panelized manufactured housing. You can't, it's indistinguishable from the street from a stick-built house. And I say that with some authority since I worked for Boise Cascade in their manufactured housing division back in the 70s.
And I'll add, Mr. Flowers, that FHA looks at a modular home exactly like they would a stick-built home.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Any further comments or discussion for Ron? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve this amendment.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
No.
Okay, 5-0. Staff comments.
We just had that one
We got the one
table.
extra.
That
Oh,
one I
I'm
passed
sorry.
out.
Yes.
Thank you.
We were what?
Well, this,
Table
and,
4.4.
okay, back to Ron.
Well, isn't this in the
All
staff? Yeah.
Yes, and first, before we start on this one, I want to thank you all for amending the agenda tonight to add this item. We did talk about it last week, but we had a little, and totally my error, but we had a bit of a snafu, and we didn't get this item on your agenda as we expected. We've just had so many ordinance changes, so it's gotten a little bit slightly overwhelming here with that. But the change that we do have tonight is a relatively simple change. It's changing our townhouse width regulation from 26 feet back down to 24 feet. We had this come to you guys in the reverse a couple months ago, if you recall. And since that time, we've had a number of different things have happened. One, we had a townhome developer go before council and made a couple different statements. Particularly, one of them was related to our recent change that we had, which was not at that same meeting, but the meeting before that one. But he said, and this is a semi-quote here, but he said that if he was there that night, he would have came to the mic and he would have objected to our change. Obviously, I'm very aware of the fox watching the hen house type of thing. I don't really like when developers try to come in and tell us how it should be in order to make it easier for them. However, it did prompt us to want to go back and say, okay, so let's see how a 24-foot product would actually work in town, right? Especially with our other changes that we had on the agenda that night. For example, I don't know if you guys recall, like there was a requirement now for 2-car garages for townhomes. They have to be a minimum of 16 feet wide. No more than 70% of the width of the unit can be a garage door. So we went back, did all the math all over again, came back down to it, and I can just even, I wish I could draw somewhere. I wish we had a whiteboard that I could draw on, but if you guys can kind of see here, this is my townhouse unit. This is my garage. Sorry, I'm not a great artist here. If this is 16 feet wide, the garage, your front door is 4 feet. You have a foot on each side. Foot on each side of the garage. You're coming out at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 plus 16 is 24 feet. We can make a 24-foot product work here. So awesome.
On the spot.
So we wanted to switch it back down to 24. Also, that developer that night did say something that I'm still researching, but he said that there's nobody in the metro area, no developer that is building a 26-foot wide unit, and that you can't find it anywhere. So I'm still researching and haven't really had the time to really delve into that and see if that really is factual or not. I know that where I live, we have townhomes going up across, or they're not really, I'll say they're townhomes. They're so close together they might as well be. But they're like these 4-story things that are going up with a rooftop on them, each unit. And they can't be more than 24 feet wide. There's just no way. I'm going to actually, at some point this weekend, I'm going to walk over there and get a tape measure and see how wide they are. But they're going for like $700,000, $800,000. And it starts to make me think that, is the width of a townhouse, does that equal quality? That's something that we've kind of talked about a little bit here at one point. And I think it's definitely been talked about at the council level, but these are things like we see Tributary in Douglasville. We see a couple other communities that have a couple townhouses around them with a rear entry and stuff that we talked about that might make for a different experience. And the ones actually across from me are also rear entry. But I haven't seen as much of a emphasis really on wider townhouse units as much as the amenities that are inside of it. And especially even number of levels that are on the townhome and things like that people are kind of looking for. So I'm glad that we did go back to the 24 foot to actually look at it and see it and do the math over again and see what we can get. But this is not in any way driven by that developer and his statements, but it is driven by the fact that he was right about one thing, that we can actually make a 24-foot product work here, and that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be a worse product or a lesser product. It really kind of comes down to the fenestrations on it and the siding and the overall layout of the community that makes it a higher end product. So that's our change for tonight. We're looking to go to 24s.
Brian, how wide is this room?
I would say probably about, it's a 40 by,
About 45.
40 by 40, you think? Yeah, definitely 40 this way, but I'm thinking like,
Probably not 40.
I would say 40 by 45 maybe, or 40 by 50. That would be my estimate.
Yeah. So, well over 1,000 square feet. So, more square footage in this room than you're proposing here, and a lot anyway. But 24 feet for how many levels?
We don't have a maximum or minimum I'm sorry. Yeah, we don't have a maximum or minimum number of stories. We have a maximum height, a peak height in linear feet.
And what does that essentially practically amount to? 3 levels, 4 levels?
You actually have it right there on that graph under height for the SFA zone. I don't actually have.
100, by width.
My chart actually got this in my other implements here.
I don't see the height.
No, I see. Yeah. Maximum building height, 45, well, no. Well, that's multifamily, yeah.
Yeah,
Well-
45 feet
Yeah.
maximum height.
About 4 stories. Okay.
That's like a 3-story product.
Yeah.
For the roof.
Yeah.
Yeah, through in the roof.
Yeah. Okay. Lord deliver me from having to live in a small unit again.
Yeah, the minimum square footage there for our townhomes is 1,040 square feet. So, but I'm just looking to change the linear feet of the width. Yeah.
Well, I built some detached, single family, detached, with a lot, where the house was 800 square feet. Kind of small. 3 bedrooms, bath and a half. Of course, the bedrooms, you know, were about the size of that tabletop over there. And, but, you know, we sold them for 18,000. So, so it was about the cheapest thing you could get then for new construction. Now, does this require our approval for these changes?
Yes, sir. Mhm.
I will move that we approve the change from 26 to 24 in keeping with the other categories that are in 4.4 residential lot standards for the single-family attached as proposed by staff.
Is there a second?
Second?
Been moved and seconded. Any further discussion, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, Ron,
All right.
now we're to staff comments.
Yes, we had an application that that we expected to kind of hear again tonight.
Right.
This would have been this is their second postponement, but that we have not received the proper noticing from them still. So we've had a good amount of discussions now, maybe about going back 3 or 4 weeks ago now. They are, from last that I heard, they're looking to still move forward, and they're going to re-notice everyone out there once again, and all the folks that we told them that they need to notice. But there was a lot of questions that we had to go over regarding what tracks that they actually own or that they're under contract for. I've received some feedback from them. I don't want to go into detail and prejudice the application, but there's still a couple of questions that are unanswered as far as portions of the property that are actually lie north of Whitworth Road, which hasn't shown up on any maps thus far. But apparently there's a 5th tract that's over there that was included in their property survey that I have questions about ownership, the current ownership for. Being that Q Public has a different owner than who the owner is of the property that they're applying for. So we had to clarify how many lots exactly are they applying for, or tracts or lots or what have you. So it looks like they're going to actually be applying with 5 parcels total. And we wanted to make sure it wasn't a 6th one. And one of those, the 5th parcel is that portion of that's shown as Hendricks Road that is going to run through the parcel. So I requested the proof that Hendricks Road actually does belong to them, or that at least that portion of it does. And I did get that. I was able to get that. So that clarified the portion that they've shown in the boundaries, but not the portion north of Whitworth Road. So still looking for more information from them on that.
Well, there was a lot of interest in that development.
Yeah.
And, please notify those people that were at our last meeting when this comes on the agenda, because there was a lot of interest. Plus, I've gotten, and you probably did too, this comment from TNS Holdings with a lot of good comments about
Yeah.
that particular area. So I think there's going to be a lot of interest when that does come forward, so.
Yes. We've received some phone calls even today, folks asking and trying to keep up to date on it. So.
Okay, good,
yeah.
good.
That's it. That's all I have one. Sure.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I want to say one thing, not in the agenda, but I've got to have some surgery Thursday, and I don't know what that's going to mean in terms of me being available here. I don't know. My expectation is that I will be here next month, but I may not be. I've got some follow-up in about 3 weeks and different things, so I'll just have to see. So if the rest of you guys can please be here so you have a quorum, and I'll get back to meetings as quickly as I can.
well, you'll let us know if
Yeah.
you're unavailable, so. Yes, Tracy?
I just want to reiterate how grateful we are that we have a planning commission like this that takes the time and the interest and looks through it and looks for the welfare of the community and works with staff. And we're very grateful, and thank you for all your service, really do.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have a question too, Ron. I notice at the council meetings, there are a lot of items that come up that on the cover sheet for planning and zoning, it says not applicable. And yet on the material, it's something that we probably have discussed. And I'm just wondering, why is that NA?
Yeah, so I caught that on my last meeting last week. I had two items in front of the council. It was the banner and the wall sign, I believe it was, and that was an error on my behalf. I did clarify that with the mayor, actually, and I did talk to him about that. But the other items did have the planning commission's vote on it. It had the proper vote, but
Yeah.
I did miss those two items,
Yeah,
so
it was
that I apologize
Just
for.
on the cover sheet, and it just seemed
Yeah.
strange.
Yeah, that was an error. We were kind of moving fast that day, so we did miss that. But I did try to clarify that once to the mayor, and then once during the meeting that the planning commission approved all of these. It was 5-0 vote. Once I saw it on there, but that I apologize for. So I'll make sure I take another look at that.
Okay. Then I noted that the city manager's report at the last council meeting talked about things really slowing down, and that he foresaw little, if any, new developments forthcoming. Have you seen anything any different than that? Is there anything that you expect that we'll be seeing in the next month or two, other than this one project that we talked about?
That's actually the only project that I've had and it's been reviewed for a while now, but that's the only one. The others have been, I have 2 variance applications in for council and these ordinance changes as we keep going through. But as far as new construction or anyone proposing any new construction, I haven't had any. So, and that's been going on for maybe the past 2 months now, I'd say.
Interest rates, cost more money, borrow money.
Yeah,
Back
yeah.
off a little bit.
Yeah.
Even our TAC meetings are, we don't have anybody on the list. So we see the brakes being pumped a little bit here.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
pretty
there was
obvious.
an article that came out that was sent over. Actually, Chris sent it to me this morning in our department, asking if we've seen this out there. But apparently, the first article has hit now, saying that we're definitely in a halt right now for new construction. They're saying that some of the new construction companies are basically stopping building on site at this point. Like they're just same thing that we've kind of experienced in 2007, 2008, where they just kind of like stopped and walked away. I don't think that I've seen anything like that in Villa Rica or any other town near here, but apparently it's.
One of the things is we were approving things the last 3 years I've been on this commission, I was very concerned with was that very issue of what I saw happen in 08, 09, 10, and we've seen kind of the remnants of it, and I know you guys have, where you had a lot of subdivisions started, but not finished, not completed, and now you have residents who've lived there 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 years, and the rest of the subdivision, now you have people coming back in, wanting to rebuild. I just didn't want to have a repeat of that. It's something I've been fearful of, because I think the economy had been hot the last couple of years, I think artificially made that way. But it had been hot the last couple of years, and I was worried that that might be down the road for all of us, and I didn't want us to get in that situation again when we had 15 projects started, and none of them leaked. And that I was concerned about that. I still am.
Yep.
It can happen. I
We
mean,
still may see that.
yeah.
Still concerned.
It'll be the ones that we see under construction right now, like
Yeah.
Connors Landing and several others.
Yeah. That's what I'm
Well,
concerned.
Old Stone Road.
Call me the optimist here.
Possible.
But I will say that while there is a little bit of a slowdown, or a lot, depending on who you ask and where you are and what you have, the supply still is incredibly short. The demand is still there. People need to understand that you're buying the house, not your interest rate, because property values are going to continue to rise just because of the basic supply and demand shortage that we're in with housing. So I just wanted to put my 2 cents on there.
Spoken from a true real estate.
As an expert. That's right.
Well, for example, look at the people that bought real estate when we were at the bottom there. I mean, they're cashing in now with hundreds of thousands of dollars in equity. So it didn't go down. Our values are not going to go down. They may not increase as quickly as we've seen them over the last few years, but we're not going backwards just because we're in the shortage. So, and that's unfortunate in my opinion, because I was looking forward to getting some relief in the shortage, but you know, the state of the economy has shown itself.
Yeah.
We will see.
I think we're only still producing, what, 1.4 million new starts a year, and in '05, we were at 2.4. So
Right.
we've not caught up with the demand. That's the saving grace in this, is there's still a lot of demand. But the scary part is the whole economic thing that we're seeing out here. That scares me.
Yeah, very much so. Are there any public comments? Anybody would like to say anything? David?
We passed a new milestone in our midst. We have a person that is now older than dirt in our vicinity. John is celebrating his 90th birthday.
Oh, there we go.
Thank you. Thank you
That's
very
a
much.
blessing. Happy
Thanks.
birthday. What a blessing.
Over and above that, are there any, any public comments? Anybody care to say anything? Leslie, you're good to go?
I wish I could have pulled up your packet, I was having a hard time. My
Okay.
iPad doesn't automatically connect in here like my tablet, and I don't know the password. But I was appreciating, sorry, I should be on the microphone, I apologize. This is recorded, I'll be real quick. So I don't come very often, and Miss Shirley is the newest one. I don't recall your background exactly, but as y'all were speaking, I was just appreciating the different perspectives that you bring because of your background, your jobs, your experience, and that sort of thing, whether it's finance, real estate, that sort of thing, legal stuff. They usually look at all the details, but engineer, GE. But anyway, that's all. I knew I hadn't been for a while, needed to come down here, pop in. I look at your minutes, I read your votes, and sometime I watch the meetings. Depends on how, if there's any entertaining things to watch in it. To understand. I'm probably going to have to go back and review this because I couldn't read that, and I need to see what you're looking at.
Good, good. Again, I make the repeated offer while Leslie is here that planning and zoning has made ourselves available. If there's anything we can do to relieve the council of the variance deluge that you get, if there's anything we can do to help in that regard, we are available. So I know we've mentioned this before, and so
Yeah, we've talked about
again with Leslie here, so. Okay, any other further comments from anybody? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Moved and seconded, all in favor? We're adjourned. Thank you for coming.
Okay, thank you.
Anything to sign?
You know, John, every time you say thank you for coming, I always think to myself, well, I didn't have a choice. You know?
No, that's. Sunday was, yeah. Yeah, well, thank you.
Well, we have the accounting man right here, and they're gonna put me, but, so I just wanted to tell you that I wasn't being insensitive to you, I just wanted to know, and I was